We are on our way. Keep right, no?
Say 10 left, no? Okay, 2.
Yeah. Wrong turn. And here we go. On our way to see the Loch Ness monster.
The GPS seems to be going crazy. It's taking us all over the place, on country roads, into farms. I just hope we won't find any inbred Scots with chainsaws that hack us into pieces. I don't know how we did it, but we're back onto the main roads. We finally made it to the Loch Ness Lodge Hotel. What a nice place. Similar in old British charm as the hotel that we stay in the Lake District. We're about to eat. The restaurant has an old Scottish charm. I hope the food is as good as the restaurant looks. And here comes our waitress.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
And she's a natural actress. I can see that. Yeah.
Give us our menu tonight. Thank you.
Oh, this is extremely hard. Should it be fish and chips or chips and fish? We had a good night and we just had a good breakfast. This is the Loch Ness Hotel from the outside. It doesn't look half as good as the inside. We cannot see the lake from here, but it's just beyond those trees. We're planning to take a boat ride. Unfortunately, when the owner of the company who drives the bus and the boat, when he came around, he said, look, let's wait another hour and see if more people come. There's only 2 of you, and it isn't worth it. So, despite that we have already bought the tickets, we now have to wait another hour. In the meanwhile, we're going to visit the Loch Ness Museum that basically talks about the history of the lake and the Loch Ness monster. The locals swear that there is a monster in the lake, and if not a monster, a very big fish. And that monster is Marie-Louise Gutierrez de Gutierrez, my wife. Too pretty to be a monster. Unfortunately for the owner of the tour company, we didn't get any more customers, so he had to take only Mary Lou and I. We are ready to depart and get acquainted with that mysterious lake, Loch Ness.
To my right, there's one just behind me here on the cabin wall. There's one when you come in the door on the starboard side, and there are 2 copies out there on the glass doors on the aft deck. If you look at photograph number 1, I took that on the 6th of June, 1986, around about 7:15 in the morning. And I estimate that the black camp in the photograph is between... It's not really possible. You would be left with a hole that is big enough to fit the population of the world into 3 times over with room to spare. Loch Ness contains more fresh water than all the lakes and reservoirs in England and Wales put together. The deepest part of Loch Ness, which is much farther down the loch, of the port side, of the left-hand side, goes down to 812 feet, or 248 metres. And that part of Loch Ness was found and recorded by myself in lumpy and bumpy with caves and tunnels, linking Loch Ness to the open sea. Now that is simply not true. If you look at the posters about the boat showing the cross-section of Loch Ness, you will see that the bottom of Loch Ness is absolutely flat. Remove all the water from Loch Ness, and that's not really possible. You would be left with a big hole that resembles a bath, flat on the bottom, steep on the sides. And the guiding back almost 1,000 years. Now the castle was mainly held by the kings of Scotland. But during the Wars of Independence in the year 1296, it was taken by the armies of Edward I of England, who was known as the Hammer of the Scots. And they held the castle for a few years before it was recaptured by the armies of Robert de Bruce, the Scottish king. And for the next 400 years or so, the castle remained in the hands of the Scots. The last time that Urquhart Castle was occupied was around about 1694, when it was taken by the Hanoverian troops. Very much a ruin, although it's well worth a visit. And the castle is built on a small peninsula. It is called Strone, S-T-R-O-N-E. That's a Gaelic name again, and it means the nose, Strone. The castle juts out into the loch. At present we are seeing...
I see the monster.
Yeah, it's true.
I see the monster.
It has two horns?
There's two horns.
Now in a moment or two, just above the castle pier over here off the port side, through the gap in the trees, you are going to see a wooden contraption in the field. It's a siege catapult or a trebuchet, named after the Frenchman who designed them. On the left-hand line there in the field. Now in fact there are no records whatsoever of them ever having used any kind of siege engine to attack the castle. But it looks quite good sitting there in the field.
Now we're heading back to the dock. So we say goodbye to George Edwards, our skipper, Nessie hunter, and intrepid explorer of Loch Ness. We're going back to the Loch Ness Lodge Hotel to pick up our car and drive to Edinburgh, one of the most beautiful cities of Europe. We left Loch Ness around 2 o'clock in direction to Edinburgh. We arrived to Edinburgh Thistle Guest House. It looked nice across a garden. However, our room on the third floor was very small and accessible through very narrow stairs. We went to have lunch dinner at a very nice French restaurant called Bijou, about 2 blocks away from the hotel. And when we came back, we tried to check our emails, and we found that we didn't have any internet. And nobody was at the premises, so we didn't have any access to internet that night. Next morning, when we woke up, we took a shower in one of the most narrow showers the world has ever seen. If you dropped the soap, you couldn't bend down for it. When we went down for breakfast, there was an Indian fellow, and we asked him, where was Ed? He didn't know who Ed was, and said, well, it's printed in your leaflets in the room that if we have any question, Ed was going to be in the premises.
Oh, no, he left here a long time ago, but we have somebody else.
And where is that somebody else?
Oh, she's away on holidays.
So nobody was here?
No, why?
Because we didn't have any internet.
Well, why didn't you call?
Because there is not a single telephone number.
Yes, there is. Right here.
He says. And the telephone number there was for somebody to come and give you a massage. I mean, it was just impossible. You couldn't say anything to this guy. He would react in a very defensive, aggressive manner. And of course, Mary Lou, who has a very short fuse, was looking at this guy with Mary Lou's eyes. So he turned around and looked at her and said,
And you don't look at me with those staring eyes.
well, of course, I mean, he shouted to my wife, so that I couldn't take it, so I went at him with a vengeance. He threatened to call the police, and anyway, it just became a mess. It was a very uncomfortable experience. We left the premises as soon as we could step out, left our luggage in the car, took the bus into Edinburgh, where we took the hop-on, hop-off bus and started to get acquainted with that beautiful city. Que es una de mis ciudades favoritas. Desde 1973 que no la visitaba. Como se pueden dar cuenta, es impresionante. Si no mal recuerdo, hay algo que le llaman la milla real, que va desde el castillo de Edimburgo hasta Holyrood Palace. Mary Queen of Scots vivía en Holyrood Palace y recorría una milla escocesa hasta el castillo de Edimburgo. Por eso se conoce como la milla real. Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland, known as the Windy City. It has 450,000 people. And finally, we have arrived to Edinburgh's Castle. Edinburgh Castle, which dominates the city's skyline, is the most popular visitor attraction in Scotland. Y aquí tenemos la vista desde el castillo y lo que viene a ser el valle de Edimburgo. Increíble, ¿no? Bonito. Y aquí tenemos a la turista. This is a very massive and strong structure, easy to defend and very difficult for an invading army to take, to climb the rock and these massive walls.
Este es el edificio más antiguo del castillo y de Edimburgo.
We are out of the castle and we're walking down the Royal Mile, back to the hop-on, hop-off bus.
Let me go to him. I'm going to stand next to him. Miren nomás qué belleza. Y casi es una ciudad muerta, la población ha estado disminuyendo constantemente. En toda Escocia, nada más hay 5 millones de escoceses. Let me go to him. I'm going to stand next to him.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, was born in Edinburgh and is said to have modeled the famous detective on Professor Joseph Bell, president of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh. Edinburgh has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this is the fire station built in the early 1920s. Now it houses a museum, a restaurant, a pub, and an art school. Sean Connery grew up in Edinburgh, and as a boy delivered milk to Fettes College, where the fictitious character of James Bond was supposed to have been educated.
Bond. James Bond.
This is the hub at the top of Edinburgh's Royal Mile. The Gothic spire is the highest point in central Edinburgh, visible from all over the city. Inside, there is the Hub Cafe. It was constructed between 1842 and 1845 for the Church of Scotland.